2025. But something bad is about to happen. What if the Middle East disappeared? Yes, that's right. So we have covered many scenarios on this channel, but what if one day, let's just say someone wished for something and all Middle Eastern countries disappeared as well? So what constitutes as the Middle East is basically here, the Arabian Peninsula, Israel, Palestine, all of this land here, Iran, and some people count Egypt as it, so the Middle East is officially gone. The world is in shock. First of all, the ecosystems of the world now have to react to the entire part of the map being gone. But now let's talk about what about the world. First of all, several countries are no longer landlocked as well. Here. This includes Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Afghanistan are no longer landlocked as well. Also, some people consider Pakistan a part of the Middle East, and Sudan and Somalia, but they're not really. Only Egypt is really genuinely considered part of the Middle East. One country that lost like 90% of its landmass is Turkey. Turkey is now reduced to this small little area right here, and now it's just Thrace. I think that's what this place is called. Basically that's what this country is now. Turkey no longer exists. Now, let's talk about the world reactions to us. Most of the world's like, what happened? The Middle East, it's gone. It disappeared. Russia lost a lot of friends. The rest, world's oil production is gone as well. And now we're going to be having wars over resources. So now the biggest oil producer, now is the war against Venezuela. Venezuela is still a very unstable country. Brazil and the United States work to occupy Venezuela. Venezuela will try to defend itself the best it can. It will try to want Russia and China to defend itself as well here, but this Venezuela is one of the weakest countries in South America because it's a very with the help Brazil with the help of the United States does defeat Venezuela and puts a pro-Western alliance. What follows is China creating a new alliance. Basically, this alliance is to counteract NATO and to basically can expand Chinese influence. These two countries are the first countries to really join said alliance, so this is what the alliance looks like. Also, Laos joins the alliance as well, becoming the fourth country to join said alliance alongside of Cambodia. China has now this big alliance in, well, however, NATO is still having struggles. Donald Trump does not like the idea, though does not like the whole fact that the Europeans want to continue to fight against Russia, so US basically leaves NATO to the Europeans and Canada as well. This will allow them to say, hey, you guys can fight Russia, but we're not. I don't think Ireland's a part of NATO. You guys can fight Russia, but we're out. Basically, we're not joining as well, and now, but the problem with the whole battle, the NATO, is they don't have Turkey anymore, because Turkey was basically just snapped into the ocean. They will finally allow Ukraine into NATO, though. However, this is not going to end very well for NATO, as a lot of NATO's members of the United States are actually not that strong. Okay, Russia isn't a very strong country either, which will cause Russia to retaliate against NATO, basically what's left of NATO, because NATO refuses to have has a peace offer as well. So now there's a war between Russia and all of Europe. And Belarus joins as well. Yeah. You could what Russia and Belarus basically create a defensive war, basically stop playing a defensive war, as the U.S. basically says, "Hey, we want to try to make so there are elections in Ukraine. They found out elections. Zelensky actually refuses to have elections and declares himself the dictator of Ukraine. Basically, actually, I think this is a part of Warsaw here as well. However, war support in many NATO countries start to go down very quickly, especially in Italy. Italy leaves the war as they see there's no point in fighting this war. Italy becomes the first country to leave, alongside Romania, where they finally elect their new government, which is not very pro-NATO, so they leave this war, seeing it as pointless, alongside with the Balkans in general. They said that it was supposed to be, they basically used it as basically to secure themselves, against Russia, but they see that this is just done now at this point. NATO is just warmongering at this point. Same thing with Hungary as well. They leave the war. They're still a part of NATO. However, the Balkan countries are still send supplies to help Ukraine at the very least. But Hungary, Romania, and Italy are just playing out as well. Yeah. Also, NATO occupies Kaliningrad, which isn't too surprising. That's disconnected. However, Greenland doesn't want to be a part of it as well, and the purchase for Greenland is now finally complete, which means Greenland is, for now, will be a territory under the U.S. until it gets, basically so it can have protection from China as well. So, basically, Greenland is basically an independent state, but it's technically a puppet state of America. Kind of like how Japan basically was for like the first 30 years after the Cold War. However, Trump finally says, you know what, Europe and Russia, let's have a peace agreement. Russia finally says, finally, this bullcrap is over, and Europe is upset because they lost against Russia as well. This will cause the fracturing of NATO, as well as a lot of NATO members do not really approve of NATO, of the whole Ukraine being a part of NATO. So Italy leaves, along with Hungary and Romania. The rest of NATO basically like, how dare you, leave NATO? How dare you? And basically the EU is now imposing sanctions on Italy and Hungary. And that is pretty bad for these countries. However, these countries reach out to the former ally, the U.S., and the U.S. will provide them with aid as well. The U.S., however, in 2028, wants to create a new alliance. This is basically an alliance of American allies. Considering that Israel does not exist in this world because we deleted the Middle East off the face of the earth, U.S. gets new allies. So, there are several new candidates for potential allies for the United States as well here. Allies that will actually respect the United States. The first two countries to join is El Salvador and Argentina. Now, with their leadership under Milei, they basically both joined this U.S. alliance basically here. Ukraine basically, as well here. And any more U.S. aligned countries can join this alliance inevitably as well. NATO is continuing to crumble as well. They do accept a new member into NATO, which is France and Georgia. These two countries officially joined NATO, and they are both worried about Russia. They're not very strong countries, so they're among some of the weakest countries in the world. I also forgot Montenegro is a part of NATO. Sorry. Also, they finally allowed Austria to join NATO because, they lost Hungary, so they said, Austria, you can leave your neutrality stuff behind because of World War II. Just be a part of NATO. You can just be a part of NATO instead, obviously, as well. And this is NATO now. NATO is now known as the European Alliance. Also, Canada is still a part of NATO still, as well. Also, Greenland is automatically invited to the U.S. Alliance. Forgot about Greenland as well here. Also, the U.S. now funding right-wing governments to basically counteract the European Union and NATO. So now there's a third Cold War. The U.S. versus the EU versus China. That's the third Cold War, essentially, as well. So now the world's in the third Cold War between Chinese influence, the EU influence, and the US influence. And we do another alternate future of the world. We'll probably do something similar as well here. However, another one of America's oldest allies wants to join this alliance, which is Morocco. Again, Morocco, I think, is America's oldest ally. They were like the first country to recognize the U.S. And the leadership says, hey, we want to be a part of this alliance too. So they join to be part of this as well. Another country that's thinking of joining this alliance is India, but they are already a part of BRICS as well. However, another thing happens is a certain person is reelected as the leader of Brazil after there's a whole controversy regarding the election in Brazil. However, Lula loses re-election because Lula isn't very unpopular. It's a very unpopular president, and Bolsonaro is now the president of Brazil again, which means he immediately joins the U.S. alliance as well, alongside of Guatemala, which I think that's another country that's friends with the U.S. as well, which means the U.S. alliance has now grown to include Brazil, Argentina, Guatemala, the U.S. of course, El Salvador, Greenland, and Morocco as well. However, China wants to extend their influence obviously as well, and they court more closer nations like Myanmar and of course Nepal into the alliance, as well extending it even more. And that is it for part 1 of this series, and goodbye.